Are you in pursuit of the better you? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Becky.
Hello, I'm Faye, and this podcast is all about maximising your potential and living your best life personally and professionally.
We're looking forward to being with you on your pursuit of the better you. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the In Pursuit of the Better You podcast. Today we are talking about the rider, the elephant and the path. What on earth are the rider, the elephant and the path? So this is a concept that was introduced to me a few weeks ago about thinking about change. And I thought it was such a brilliant analogy that we can probably all relate to, that we just had to get it on the show. So the idea is that, whenever we're wanting to make some kind of change in our lives, our brain has to get involved. But there's two parts of our brain. There's the rational part of our brain, the one that thinks, that plans, that strategizes. And there's the emotional part of the brain. And the emotional part of the brain has a lot more power than the rational part. So the rider is the rational part of our brain, and it is riding the elephant, which is the emotional part of our brain. And so if you imagine you're trying to do something and you are the rider of the elephant, if the elephant isn't on board with what you are doing, you cannot push, you cannot pull, you cannot cajole that elephant into doing something that it doesn't want to do. So it's that idea that you really have to appeal to and motivate and understand the emotional part of your brain. But alongside that, you also need to think about the path. So you need to set clear direction. And you need to look at how you can make that path as easy as possible for the elephant to follow with the rider on its back. And it's just such, as I said at the start, such a lovely sort of relatable analogy that we really, really wanted to share it with you. So I'd shared it with Faye. There's a little 2-minute YouTube video if you search for the rider, the elephant and the path. You can find that on there. And I shared it with Faye. Faye, what do you think of this analogy?
I absolutely loved it because our listeners, those of you who listen to the show regularly, which I know is all of you, will know by now that Becky and I have a little WhatsApp chat where we put ideas for our podcast episodes in. And Becky had written this in. I was like, what on earth? But knowing Becky as I do, it doesn't surprise me that she would come up with this, with something like this. So I wasn't sure if it was a Becky thing or whether it was something else.
Oh, I wish.
But not one that I'd heard of in terms of the rider, the elephant and the path. But you shared the little 2-minute YouTube video, which I will link to in the show notes. So if you want to go and have a look, then have a look into the show notes. The link is there. I love it. Because it resonates with me so much, because I'm very logical. I've got some great logical, rational thinking that goes on for me, but oh boy, do my emotions get in the way. And it took me straight to my marketing of my business because, I know how to market. I know a lot about marketing. I studied marketing in my degree, in a postgrad management diploma that I did. I did an NVQ that had, I've studied marketing. If you want me to write a thesis on marketing, I could. But putting it into practice, marketing is a really practical thing. Putting it into practice for me is difficult, not because I don't know how to, but because that emotion gets in the way and it's strong for me. And I've had a lot of coaching around this, I'll be honest. I mean, those who listen to the show regularly, that Becky and I are coaches. But I've had a lot of coaching on this. And a question that my coach will always ask me at the end of our sessions is, what's going to stop you doing this, Faye? And it's always myself. And when I see this video of the rider, the elephant of the path, it's the elephant, actually. I can blame the elephant. It's the elephant that's stopping me doing these things. And so it got me thinking about other things that I have achieved. I've had a big birthday recently. I don't know if you're aware of that, Becky. I don't know whether I told you.
No. What was the birthday, Faye?
21, Becky.
Nice
plus
try.
that, obviously. 21 plus that. Yeah, so I've had a big birthday recently, and I set myself some little goals before I was at this age. And all right, 50. Let's name it.
Say it.
Let's name it. I'm 50. I'm fabulous. It's great. Anyway, I set myself some goals, and you know, these goals happened, and it wasn't overly tricky. I've got to work at them. I've got to put the work in. That's absolutely fine, but it wasn't overly tricky. And so I was thinking, so what's different? I knew when I set the goal that as long as I was consistent and stuck to it, I'd get there. So what's the difference between those goals that you know that you can hit and those goals that feel like such a struggle? And for me, it is that emotion. But then what do we need to do to, maybe it's the path as well. Maybe it is the path. But what do we need to do to know that we can hit the goals that we set ourselves?
I think that's where all three of the elements work really nicely together, though, isn't it? So it's that, setting the direction, getting really clear, which is something we talk about in coaching all the time, isn't it? Getting really clear on what that goal is. So that's setting the direction with the path. And using the rational part of our brain for this. To be able to then plan and strategize. And it's really important to not get lost in that rational part as well. So that's where I get lost. I'm an excellent overthinker. And I used to think that just being able to see things from different angles was just a super strength. However, my strength very quickly becomes my weakness because I get lost in the overthinking, so then I don't take action. And so getting really clear and then thinking about the path to it and what are those potential obstacles? What can you move out of the way so that your rider can direct your elephant down that path? And the elephant is then, appealing to that emotional aspect, tapping into why on earth it is you are bothering to undertake this in the first place. What does it mean to you to actually hit that target? And that's where you need to sort of really tap into that elephant. I've never talked about elephants so much in my life.
I love elephants. Yes. And I was thinking as you were saying that, Becky, then it's so important to, and we've talked about this so many times on the podcast before, evaluate the path, make sure the path is still going in the right direction, but also have those little celebrations along the way of the things that work so that we can remind ourselves that actually this is working. We might not be where we want to be just yet, but we are on the right path with our elephant, and we can celebrate those milestones along the way. We might not realize they're a milestone until we get there. So it's recognizing, even if it's not a big celebration, it's that recognition of I'm here. And I think sometimes that's easiest to do. So for example, one of my goals was I wanted to people say don't say lose weight. I wanted to drop some pounds by my birthday. I wanted to be a certain weight and be able to wear the clothes that were in my wardrobe that I hadn't been able to wear for a while. So I was able to use that as my milestones along the way, trying things on and feeling that they're fitting better, trying things on, and just seeing that big difference and seeing that difference in me as well. That feeling as well. So there were very key things that I could celebrate along the way there, and celebrating that and seeing how far I come helped me keep consistent. But sometimes with your marketing, you don't know because you don't know who's reading your posts. You don't, because a lot of people, and I do know this, that people read your marketing but don't necessarily tell you that they're reading your marketing. So a lot people know about what you're doing, but they don't necessarily let on. If only they let on, you could celebrate that at least, couldn't you? So there's lots that you don't know with your marketing. So quite often it's not until you do get that client, and people come your way and want to work with you, that maybe that's the milestone in the path, but maybe it's the end of the path. I'm not sure. It depends what it means to you. But I find it quite difficult to. I just find it a more difficult journey.
Yeah, and we all have the ones, don't we, where you can motivate yourself easier, and the ones that they just do seem that bit harder.
Yeah.
There's a book that I've been reading as well that is based on this analogy, and there was a brilliant example quite early on in it about the business world that I thought I would share on this podcast as well. So the book is called Switch. It's the strapline is something like How to Change When Change is Hard, or something like that, but Switch. And it tells the story of, I'm going to call him like the finance director or something within a big business in America, who was looking at their procurement spend of the business and was just shocked at how much they were spending on things, and had tried to have, numerous conversations with the board around, we really need to be reviewing and putting some processes in place, and et cetera, and there was just zero appetite for it. No one was interested. It was going to be too big, too hard a task to undertake. So there was a summer intern who came to work in his department, and he tasked the summer intern to find out how many different types of safety gloves were used around the business. So they had sort of factories and warehouses all across America. So how many different types of safety gloves were used, and what each glove cost? And the intern came back and they used over 400 different kinds of gloves. And there were many where they used the same gloves, but within one warehouse, the deal that they were getting meant they were costing $3 a pair, but in another warehouse, they were paying $12 a pair. So he then tasked the intern to get in a sample of every glove and put in a price tag on it. And this finance guy put all of those 400 and odd pair of gloves on the boardroom table and invited the board in to look at them. And so they walked in, and that table that's normally, usually very clear and pristine, and, might have a few papers and glasses for water, is filled with this mountain of gloves. And they're walking around and they're looking at it and looking at the price tags. And then they're pulling them out. Well, this one and this one's exactly the same. Why are we paying $9 a pair more? We're paying $9 a pair more because we have no procurement strategy in place. We have no nationalised deals. So everyone is getting their own prices. And look at how much money we are spending. So he appealed to their elephant. And in that instant, there's sort of uproar, and that's it. Yep, time to make a change. And they did, and saved millions of dollars every year. Obviously, the glove suppliers weren't too happy when, they'd gone from being able to sell one pair for $12 and actually then finding out that they knew about the ones that they were also selling for $3. But by appealing to the emotions of the group, and what it is that we could be doing with that money instead, and the time, and et cetera, it got them on board. And I just thought, I love that. Love it.
I think the UK police force could do something similar. I saw, did you see on the news, I think it was just last week, that we've got different sort of police force areas, and one area was spending £25 on a truncheon. Can't say that word. If I've said it wrong, I apologise. And there were other areas spending over £140 on their truncheon. Yeah, the same thing. Yeah. So again, well, perhaps I think some emotional appealing is required.
Yeah, the table with the price tag.
Yeah. But I absolutely love that, and this is our emotions are powerful things. They are the elephant, aren't they? They're the elephant that can drive towards, and they're the elephant that can stop. And in the video that Becky talked about at the beginning of the podcast, it shows, that literally your elephant can stop you in your tracks, and you try budging an elephant, and that so when your emotions are to such a point that they are stopping you, it's so difficult to get them moving. Your path has got to be clear in order to get that elephant to then move. It's a really powerful analogy, and it sounds like I need to read the book Switch. So
yeah. And if you've been trying to motivate yourself to do some kind of change, have a think. Where is it of those 3 elements that actually, needs a little bit more nurturing from you? Is it your rider? Are you not thinking strategically? Are you not thinking critically? Is it your elephant? Are you not appealing to your emotions? Or is it that actually your path is so convoluted and so full of obstacles that, neither your elephant or your rider can think how to actually navigate it?
Thank you for listening to In Pursuit of the Better You. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becky at questforest.co.uk and Faye at fayeblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and thank you to Wahoo Media for our production.
And we'll see you again on the next leg of your pursuit.